The lawyer's hand was trembling when I said the words. Yes, I'm the husband. He froze, eyes locked on mine, and then slowly slid the divorce papers back across the desk like they were laced with poison. His lips parted, but nothing came out. I watched the blood drain from his face. That's when I knew she didn't tell him about the inheritance. My wife, Madison, wanted a divorce. Said I could only speak to her through her lawyer. Cold as ice. She thought she was about to walk away from our marriage with half of my shop, my house, and me looking like the fool. But what she didn't know, 2 days earlier, I'd inherited $2 million from my uncle in Texas. Quietly. No one knew. Not her. Not her slimy lawyer. And the moment I told him who I was, he realized he'd just made the worst mistake of his career. But let me rewind 48 hours. Because the thing is, this whole story didn't start with money. It started with a whisper, a phone call, and a lie. He tried to regain composure, fumbling with his pen, but the way his fingers trembled gave him away. I leaned forward, slowly, calmly, and said, I just wanted to make sure you knew what you were doing before we proceed. He blinked, then stammered. I wasn't informed of any assets like that. I smiled. A calm, satisfied smile. Yeah, she wouldn't have told you. She doesn't know. Silence. You could hear the air conditioner humming like it was nervous too. He looked down at the papers, then back at me, as if trying to do the math on how badly this had just gone sideways. I stood up slowly, adjusted my jacket, and tapped the manila folder I'd brought. That's the inheritance confirmation. I figured you'd want to see it before you start talking percentages. And I left him sitting there, stunned, holding the document like it might explode. She wanted a clean break. No discussion. Only speak to my lawyer, she said, with that smug little half-grin she always used when she thought she had me by the throat. But I wasn't the one drowning anymore. It all started 2 days before. Early morning. I was in the garage, trying to fix the leak under the sink, and I heard her voice through the cracked back door. She was outside, barefoot on the patio, talking low on the phone. I wouldn't have paid attention, except she said something that turned my blood cold. I can't wait until next weekend. Once the papers are filed, we can finally stop pretending. Pretending? She laughed, soft and guilty. No, he has no clue. He still thinks I'm just tired all the time. Poor thing. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. That moment, right there, was the end of my marriage. It didn't explode, it whispered. The rest of the day, I barely spoke. She noticed. She always notices when attention shifts away from her. She asked if I was okay, made some half-hearted joke about how men always get moody when they fix plumbing, and kissed me on the cheek like I was her brother. That night, she said she was going to her friend Megan's house for wine night. I knew Megan was in Miami for the week, so I followed her. It felt pathetic, tailing my own wife like a stranger, but I needed to see it with my own eyes. She pulled into a boutique hotel just outside the city. Classy. Discreet. I parked across the street, behind a tinted van, and waited. 10 minutes later, a car pulled up and out stepped a man in a gray suit. Polished. Confident. Probably the same guy who'd been whispering in her ear when she thought I was asleep. He walked in without even checking around. She met him in the lobby. They kissed like they'd done it 100 times. And that was it. No yelling. No punching walls. No crying. Just ice. I sat in the driver's seat, watching the woman I build a life with press herself against another man's chest like she belonged there. She came home later that night humming to herself, kicked off her heels, and asked if I wanted Chinese or Italian tomorrow. I told her Italian sounded good. She smiled and went to shower. And the next morning, she dropped the bomb at breakfast. Said she wanted a divorce. Told me she'd already hired a lawyer and I should direct all communication through him. She didn't even flinch when she said it. She'd rehearsed it. Perfected it. So I nodded. Drank my coffee. Said I'd be in touch. And today, when her lawyer saw the numbers, the whole board flipped. He knew what she didn't. She could have walked away with everything. But she wanted to play dirty. She wanted to humiliate me. Destroy me. Now I had every piece of leverage. And I hadn't even started playing yet. I didn't go home right after the meeting with her lawyer. I drove. Aimlessly. Windows down, music off, just the sound of the wind and the storm inside my head. Every red light gave me time to think about how long she'd been planning this, how many lies she'd stacked like cards, and how stupid she thought I was. I pulled into a quiet lot near the lake where we used to picnic before life got too busy. I sat on the hood of my truck, staring at the rippling water, remembering the way she used to smile like I was the only thing that mattered. I thought about the first time she told me she loved me, drunk, barefoot, dancing in our old apartment kitchen, and I wondered how much of it was ever real. Maybe none of it. Maybe all of it, until someone better came along. When I finally walked through the front door, she was sitting on the couch with her laptop, typing furiously. She didn't even look up. "You met with Richard?" she asked, voice flat, almost bored. I nodded, dropped my keys on the table. "Yeah, interesting guy." She shrugged. "Good. Then everything's in motion." I walked closer, leaned on the wall, arms folded. "You sure you want this?" She rolled her eyes. "Tyler, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're leaving everything behind. No questions? No conversation?" She looked up at me for the first time, that familiar fake concern on her face. "You'll be fine. You've always been sturdy, dependable, sturdy, like a couch." Or AF *** King Finspost. "I want what's fair," she added, looking back at her screen. "Don't make this ugly." She didn't even flinch when she said it. She still thought she had the upper hand. Still thought I was just going to roll over and hand her half my life because she said the word lawyer. But here's the thing, people like her, they don't prepare for consequences. They only prepare for reactions. And I wasn't going to give her the one she expected. That night, I didn't sleep. I stayed up going through our bank statements, our messages, our photos. I scrolled back years. There were signs. God, there were so many signs. She started dressing differently, checking her phone in the bathroom, changing her passwords. She stopped saying, "I love you," like she meant it, started saying it like a chore. I was a fool. But now, I was an armed fool. I called my attorney in the morning. A real one. One with teeth. Told him to dig. Not just into the divorce, but into Madison's spending, her accounts, her lies. I told him everything, even the hotel. He laughed. "We're going to have fun with this." Later that day, she sent me a text. Just one line. "Richard said the meeting went well. Hope you were polite." I stared at it for a minute, then typed back, "Very." He was especially polite after he saw the inheritance documents. No reply. Not for hours. And when she finally came home that night, she slammed the door so hard the hallway mirror rattled. She didn't even take off her coat. She stormed into the kitchen where I was eating leftover pasta and hissed, "You told him." I wiped my mouth with a napkin. "Told him what?" Her hands curled into fists. "You know what? You weren't supposed to it. You weren't supposed to lie to me. Cheat on me. Plot behind my back like I'm an idiot. But here we are." She went pale. "It wasn't like that." I pushed back my chair and stood up, inches from her face. "Then tell me how it was, Madison. Walk me through it. The hotel? The champagne? Calling me the poor thing while you grind on some guy in a lobby." She flinched. Just barely. Then that cold mask came back. "You want a war, Tyler? Fine. You're not the only one with secrets." She turned on her heel and stormed upstairs. She thought she was threatening me. But all I could think was, what secrets? And how deep did they go? She slammed the bedroom door so hard it echoed down the hallway. I didn't follow her. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, breathing, letting the silence soak everything like gasoline waiting on a spark. That line, "You're not the only one with secrets," it stuck in my skull like a nail. The way she said it wasn't desperate or scared. It was calculated. She wanted me to wonder, to spiral. She was trying to shift the power again. But I wasn't the same idiot who bought her stories anymore. So I cleaned up my plate, washed the dish, wiped the counter, and sat on the couch like it was just another Tuesday. But inside, I was tearing through everything she'd ever said to me. If she had secrets, I wanted them out in the open. Next morning, I drove to the hotel. The same one I saw her enter with her mystery man. I walked up to the front desk and flashed the business card from a friend of mine who works cyber fraud for a living. Told the woman at the counter I was there to collect footage from our investigation. I was bluffing, but I had the tone, the face, the confidence. She hesitated, glanced at the name on the card, then at my face. "Do you have a flash drive?" I nearly laughed. 10 minutes later, I had the security footage. 3 angles. Full clarity. Her walking in with him, arms wrapped around his waist. Her laughing at the elevator. Him grabbing her by the hips. I watched it in my truck. Didn't flinch. Didn't pause. I just sat through all 43 seconds like I was studying anatomy. I sent it to myself. Saved copies. One on the cloud. One on a drive I locked in my office. One on a burner account titled, "In case this gets messy." Then I called her. She picked up on the 3rd ring, voice dry. "What?" "Just wanted to know something," I said. "When you told me I was boring in bed a few months ago, Was that before or after you let Armani pull your dress up in the Wyndham elevator? Silence. Thought so, I added, and hung up. She came home that evening and didn't say a word to me. She walked in, opened a bottle of wine, drank half the glass in one gulp, and sat on the edge of the couch like it might bite her. After 5 minutes, she finally spoke. You were never supposed to know. I laughed. Harder than I meant to. That's your apology? I'm not apologizing, she snapped. You weren't paying attention to me anymore. You buried yourself in work. You forgot who I was. I shook my head. No, Madison. I remembered exactly who you were. That's the problem. She stood up like she wanted to throw the wine at me, but couldn't decide if it was worth the stain. You think you're so smart now, don't you? You think having money makes you untouchable. No, I said. But it makes me a hell of a lot harder to screw over. She stared at me for a long second. You don't know everything. You think you do, but you don't. Then tell me, I said. Tell me what I'm missing. And that's when she smirked. Not smiled. Smirked. I'm pregnant, she said. It hit me like a pike to the chest. But I kept my face blank. Yours. She blinked, like the question stunned her more than the lie had stunned me. Don't know, she said. Guess we'll find out. And just like that, she walked away. I stood there frozen, trying to calculate what part of that was real and what part was another weapon. Pregnant? Or just trying to throw me off balance? Either way, this wasn't a divorce anymore. It was war. She didn't come home the next night. No call. No text. Nothing. I didn't ask where she went. I didn't care. The more space between us, the clearer everything became. I spent that evening drinking cheap bourbon in the garage, staring at the wedding photo we never bothered to take down. Her smile looked different in hindsight, like she already had a plan. I lit the edge of the photo with a match, watched it curl and blacken in the ashtray, and finally felt the silence settle into something close to peace. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I answered. A man's voice. Confident. Smug. You're Tyler, right? I said nothing. Madison told me you might try something stupid. I just wanted to remind you, play nice, and this can all end quietly. I laughed, low and cold. Quiet ended the second you stepped into my house through her body. He chuckled. I like you. Shame she doesn't. Then he hung up. I sat still, hand gripping the phone like it might crack. He called me. That's how bold they were now. That's how untouchable they thought they were. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a performance. And they wanted me to sit front row and clap. The next morning, I sent the hotel footage to her lawyer. No message. No caption. Just the raw, quiet truth of who she really was. I knew he'd pass it along. He was already shaking last time. This would finish the job. 2 hours later, Madison stormed through the front door like a hurricane with heels. She didn't even take off her sunglasses. You had no right to send that. I leaned on the kitchen island, sipping coffee. You gave up rights when you dropped your panties in an elevator. She slammed her purse on the counter. This was supposed to be clean. You thought you'd take half my life and walk out like you earned it. I built this life with you. No, I snapped. You lived in it. There's a difference. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. Her nostrils flared. She looked like a cornered animal, dangerous and unpredictable. Then she pulled a folder from her purse and tossed it onto the counter. Fine. You want a war? Here. Let's go to court. Let's see how clean your hands are. I opened it. She'd printed screenshots, old texts, some photos, half-truths twisted to look like betrayals. A message I'd sent to a female client 3 years ago about picking up her car late at night. Another where I comforted a friend going through a divorce. Nothing damning, but just enough to look bad out of context. You think this is leverage? I said, flipping through the pages. I think perception is everything, she hissed. You'll bleed trying to explain this to a judge. I smiled. Then let's both bleed. She stared at me, and for a second, I saw it, the fear. She realized she wasn't playing chess anymore. She was trying to bluff her way through a minefield. And I was done holding back. I know about the money, she whispered. I raised an eyebrow. Too late now. You hid it from me. You cheated on me. I think we're even. She took a step forward. Her voice dropped to a poisonous whisper. You don't know who you're messing with. I leaned in just enough for her to feel it. Neither do you. She grabbed her purse and stormed out again. I didn't watch her leave. I already knew the sound of her heels would echo like guilt down the hallway. 10 minutes later, I got a notification. A new login attempt on one of my private accounts. She was already trying to find the money. I changed all the passwords, locked everything down, and called my attorney. I wanted airtight, I said. Everything. The house. The business. The accounts. He didn't even hesitate. Understood. And, Tyler? Yeah. Prepare for her to come back swinging. I smiled, bitter. Let her. This wasn't about love anymore. It was survival. The next hit came faster than I expected. 3 days later, I was served papers at my shop, not for divorce. For a restraining order. Apparently, Madison claimed I'd threatened her. Said I'd become emotionally unstable, that I was displaying aggressive behavior, and that she feared for her safety. I read the statement 3 times while standing under the fluorescent lights in my office, trying to stop my hands from shaking. There it was. The play. She wasn't just trying to leave me anymore. She was trying to bury me under her lies. Make me the villain. Set the stage so she'd look like the poor mistreated wife, and I'd be the unhinged, bitter ex who couldn't let go. I called my attorney. She's trying to poison the record, he said. Paint you as dangerous before the divorce proceedings begin. Smart. Dirty. Textbook. She's faking it all. Of course she is. But courts don't start with truth, they start with optics. Then change the optics. He was silent for a beat. You sure you want to escalate? I'm way past wanting, I said. Do it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about every lie she'd spun. Every time I forgave her when I shouldn't have. Every second I gave her the benefit of the doubt while she was sneaking around behind my back. And then it hit me. There was a guy she used to message late at night. Back when we first got married. I never thought much of it then, just some old friend from college. She said his name was Travis. But once, I glanced over her shoulder and saw the name TW at the top of the screen and a photo of the same guy from the hotel footage. It clicked. She'd been with him for years. This wasn't a fling. It wasn't spontaneous. It was a long con. I pulled up every backup I had. Old texts, email threads, photos. I started building a timeline, cross-referencing her business trips and girls' weekends with bank charges, GPS data, even social media check-ins. Her lies weren't even that clever, just frequent. And then I found it, one hotel booking in Vegas under her name from a year ago. Room for 2, paid with my business card. She'd spend our anniversary weekend with him. I nearly crushed my phone in my hand. The next morning, I made a quiet stop at the family court office and filed a motion of my own, marital fraud. I attached the hotel footage, receipts, timestamped messages, and surveillance screenshots. A full timeline of betrayal. My attorney filed it under a sealed motion to prevent public disclosure for now. But the moment she pushed again, it would all be open like a floodgate in court. That afternoon, she called me. I almost didn't answer. When I did, her voice was calm. Too calm. We don't have to do this the hard way, Ty. I didn't respond. I'm willing to. Drop the restraining order. If you agree to a 60-40th split, I take the house. You keep the shop. I let the silence grow until it suffocated the air between us. Then I said, I know about Vegas. She went quiet. Like someone hit her with a brick. You used my card. Still no answer. You should have been more careful. I hung up. An hour later, she showed up at the shop. I saw her through the office window, talking to my receptionist. Her sunglasses were on, but I knew her expression. That fake, forced, wounded charm she used when she wanted something. I didn't go out to meet her. I called security. Had her escorted out. She screamed something at the door, but I didn't catch it. Didn't need to. She wasn't mad that I figured it out. She was scared that now I could prove it. And that? That was the first real one I'd had since this mess started. 2 days later, she showed up at my house. No warning. No lawyer. No mask this time. Just rage, radiating off her like steam from boiling oil. She didn't even knock, just pounded on the door until I opened it, half expecting to find a cop or a courier. You humiliated me, she hissed the second I cracked it open. At your shop? In front of people? I stepped outside and pulled the door shut behind me. I asked you to speak through your lawyer. Or did you forget your own rules? You made me look like a crazy ex. You are a crazy ex. You filed a fake restraining order. What did you expect? She laughed, a bitter, mocking sound that didn't reach her eyes. You think you're the good guy in this? No, I said. But I'm not the one who turned our marriage into a stage play with a rotating cast of boyfriends. That hit. She clenched her jaw, took a breath, looked around like someone might be watching. Then she stepped closer. I'm not walking away with nothing. I tilted my head. That's exactly what you're walking away with, Madison. I'll burn it all before I let you win. She turned and walked off before I could answer. But I didn't need to. I'd already prepared for this. My accounts were locked, my business protected, My assets structured tight enough to survive a Category 5 hurricane of spite. Still, I didn't sleep well. I knew her too well. She never loses quietly. So when I got the call the next morning from my bank's fraud division, I wasn't surprised. Mr. Carter, we're calling to verify a flagged transaction. Someone attempted to access your investment account with an old authorization code. She was still trying to steal from me. I thanked them, hung up, and stared out the office window for a full 5 minutes, trying to breathe. She was unraveling. Fast. And the more desperate she got, the more reckless she became. Later that night, I got a message. From a burner number. One photo. Her. Lying in bed. Sheets pulled low. Collarbone exposed. Caption. Do you miss this? I didn't reply. I just forwarded it to her lawyer with one line. Please ask your client to stop harassing me. An hour later, I got a call from Richard, her attorney. I'm sorry, he said. This isn't what I signed up for. She's not cooperating. She's erratic. She's giving me instructions, then changing them the next day. Then drop her. I may have to. But Tyler, he hesitated. She told me something I think you should know. What? She says the child she's carrying might not be yours. I didn't answer. She said you should do a test when the time comes. That it's complicated. I hung up. She wasn't just trying to wreck my life, she was trying to strap me to a bomb made of lies and light the fuse herself. That night, I opened the file I'd been building on her. Every lie, every message, every receipt. I organized it, timestamped it, labeled every piece like I was presenting it to a jury. Because maybe I would. The next morning, I made one more call. To Travis. Yeah, I found his number. Wasn't hard. I introduced myself as Madison's husband. There was a pause. Then he laughed. Oh, you. He knew about me. Of course he did. You two done yet? He asked. Almost. Well, he said, when she's free, tell her she can come get her toothbrush from my place. I don't do roommates. Click. I sat there holding the phone. Not even he wanted her anymore. The mask was falling off fast. And what lay underneath? Rot. 3 weeks passed. No texts. No threats. No lawyers. Just silence. It was the kind of silence that doesn't bring peace, but tension. The kind that makes you flinch when the phone rings or hesitate before opening your inbox. I kept waiting for her next move, the last grenade, the final attempt to tear something else down. But nothing came. Then, finally, I got a letter from the court. A final proposal. She wanted to settle. No alimony. No claims to the shop. No mention of the house. It was the cleanest divorce proposal I'd seen in my attorney's entire career. I drove straight to the courthouse and signed. And just like that, she was gone. I sat in my truck for a long time after. Hands on the wheel. Engine off. Just breathing. Letting the weight fall off, piece by piece. A few days later, I heard from a mutual friend that she'd moved across the country. Some coastal city where no one knew her name. Travis? Gone. Apparently, he'd ghosted her after realizing the mess she was dragging behind her. She was renting a one-bedroom and, from what I heard, already 3 months behind on payments. She tried to start over, but she'd burned too many bridges, and eventually, the fire found her. As for me, I kept the shop. Business even picked up. People around town had heard the story, small towns have loud mouths. And it turns out, folks like a man who doesn't fold under pressure. The $2 million? I never touched a dime of it. Not yet. I didn't need it. Knowing I had it was enough. That it was mine, untouched by her lies, untouched by her hands, that was the real win. Sometimes I drive past the old hotel. Not on purpose, it's just on my route. Every time I see it, I remember the moment I finally saw her clearly. Not the fantasy. Not the version I wanted to believe in. The real her. I don't feel pain anymore when I think of her. I feel nothing. And nothing is better than drowning. If someone asked me what I learned, I'd say this. If someone shows you who they are, believe them. Don't decorate their lies with your hopes. Don't excuse betrayal because love used to live there. And never mistake silence for weakness. Because sometimes, silence is the sound of a man building his escape. And sometimes, it's the sound right before everything burns. The end.